Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for joining today. This is a continuation of our pandemic projects, and I'm working on one that's an older reel that is made in the USA. It's a Shakespeare. It's the Shakespeare 2000, and if you read the codes on the Shakespeare number 2000, which is a kind of a model or a brand or a sub-brand, and it says model EB. Well, I think we've talked about Shakespeare on some of the other videos, but the model indicator with the two alphas is actually a dating code, and EB is E equals 6 and B equals 9, and an EB model means that this reel was manufactured in 1969. So this one goes way back. It was made in the USA. Kind of looks a little bit like a Mitchell. And we're going to take it apart. We'll show you how to service this if you have one of these, show you what it was made like, and get this thing out there fishing again, because it certainly can go fishing again. I acquired this one at a local tag sale. I can't even remember what I paid for it. I just, when I buy these things, sometimes I just consider them tuition reels. I'm going to open them up, see what they're like. This one seemed to be working, which is wonderful, but if it doesn't work, I learned how they manufactured them and take lessons learned from that. So we're going to open this up, and as we start the servicing project, I want to thank all of our first responders and frontline personnel and essential personnel, whether you're working in schools, hospitals, or supermarkets and food chain suppliers, restaurants, and anything else that is trying to keep us aware of what's going on and safe from the pandemic. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think we all owe you a debt of gratitude. Okay, this is an interesting one. You take the case screw out, but it's actually a cup as opposed to a screw. The screw is mounted on the inside. We'll take this cover off. That usually tells us what we have in there. Okay, so we have what looks like a beautiful gear. We have a handle crank that's a little unique. If you look at this, we've got the gear from the handle is a relatively small gear driving the pinion gear, and as that's sliding up and down, this back gear of the main gear here is actually moving the oscillating gear. So it's a double gear setup. I haven't seen that before. That's pretty neat. There you go. And we have that held on by a C-clip. Okay, we're going to pull the pin from the crosswind block. The crosswind block looks an awful lot like a Mitchell. I'm going to pull that pin out. I'm going to put that, as well as the other pieces that I take off of this reel, into a parts tray. I recommend that for everybody, and the parts tray, the notion is you know where to find the part when you're done with the work on it. Okay, to get the axle shaft out now, you simply pull up, and this is coming out very nicely. Then you have a crosswind block that's got a groove in it. That groove rides on the stud in the oscillating gear. We're going to make sure that we clean this up. Get all of the old grease out of there. I'll use a cotton swab for that. And Mitchell has a similar setup with a plastic crosswind block. That's neat. Okay, and then let's take a look at what we have here. So we have this main gear, which is driving the one behind. You can see as we turn, that main gear trips this double gear here, so the back of it is driven off of the main gear, and the front of it is driving our pinion gear to turn our spool. And it looks like it's all held in place by a little E-clip, so here goes nothing. Let's go ahead. I don't have the schematic. I've never worked on one of these. I'm not familiar with the reel, but I know that if I kind of do what I think I would like to do, let's take it apart and learn from it. So I'm going to try and remove this C-clip without it shooting. It's kind of a balancing act. Ideally, you hold one side of it and you pull it out with the other. I'm just not having a lot of luck with it. My fear is that I'm going to shoot the thing There we go. And that's why I'm cautious there. I didn't want to put too much effort into that. It's actually an E-clip. I didn't want to put too much effort into that for fear that it would break off. Okay, this should come out now. We have a post. That post is actually holding our side plate screw. The rest should just slide right up and off. That's the first gear. You can see the second gear behind it, and that second gear has got a tooth so that this is going to mesh this way. And then we have our little cap here. That's going to be the stud washers. That's going to hold the side case on like that. Okay, now we're going to come up top then, and we're going to pull this rotor off. See what's underneath here. And there's a little tab here that you need to push down on, usually with a screwdriver or something, to bend it out of the way so that you can get the piece off. Then you need to find the appropriate wrench. Have a socket wrench then. Once you pull down on the tab, get the right socket wrench. And this one comes off in the traditional counterclockwise direction. Go ahead and take both of these and put them into the parts tray so you don't lose them. You can remove that now. And we should be able to push this down, I'm thinking. There you go. Push that down to remove your pinion. And we just have a bushing. There's no gear in there. But I like to take the rotor off. I want to make sure it's clean. The bail was working. You can see we've got a heavy-duty trip spring here. But I want to flush this. I just want to use some penetrating oil. I want to get in all of the cracks and crevices and just let it do its work. This is a dead end on this side of the bail. But I just want to let it work its way in. Use the excess to clean off your board. And just kind of give it a whirl. That belongs in the pinion gear underneath the shiv. But just work it in a couple of times, just to make sure that it's working smoothly. And we got the one on the bottom and our pinion gear. With the pinion gear out now, we can take the handle off. Don't lose track of where your pieces and parts are. That's another thing I always recommend, is to go ahead and take pictures, because the pictures will save you if and when you go to reinstall and you forget where a particular washer went. So we've got some congealed old grease here. This one goes back on our main gear. And we'll just make sure that all the dirty old grease gets out of there, so that when we put the fresh grease in, we're ready to go again. Okay, let's grab the main gear. This one's in pretty good condition. It looks like a beautiful piece of metal. I'm not sure if it's stainless or not, but there's no rust on it. There is some kind of accumulated tarnish. Let's just see if we can't use some steel wool to get the tarnish off. It's just old grease. There we go, shines up nicely. Check the teeth on your main gear. Make sure that they're all uniform, that they're not chipped, cracked, or missing. And then go ahead and give it that coat of grease that it hasn't had in quite some time. And then remember the sequences that you took these in or came out of, because that's how you go to reinstall. You want to get a good coating all around the face of this gear, because this gear is going to be driving that crosswind. Put the gear in. This is the little washer that came on the other side of it. If you wondered, if you looked down on your desk and couldn't remember that, then go back, stop your assembly for a moment, look at it, whether you took the picture on a cell phone camera, on a regular digital camera, or if you went and kind of did what I did there. Either way, taking videos, you would want to go back and just check. Don't force anything on these reels. Here's that small one that gets driven off the main gear. We want to get that back in. That one goes with the slot facing up. And we had the one with the slot facing down. And you're doing the same thing here. We're checking all these gears, making sure they're clean. They are. This reel is actually dry. I think that's what was probably causing the problem. A lot of times the sluggish performance is because there's dried grease in the reel. In this case, it's kind of the opposite. There's no grease in the reel, but that's okay. Now we want to grab our pinion gear then. We'll do the same thing here. We'll clean that shaft. Again, this seems like it's a piece of stainless. Make sure it's all cleaned. Check the gear. This one seems to have a little bit of stuff caught in it. I'm just going to use a little pick here just to make sure that the channels get cleaned. I'll use a bristle brush here. Clear the channel. And then we can slide our pinion gear up after we put a little bit of grease on it. So we put a little bit on the shaft so that it spins nicely in the bushing. And we're going to get a little bit onto the teeth where it intersects with the main gear. And yes, we did get a lot of grease on the main gear, but that's okay. All right, slide that back in and up, just like that. At this point, you probably give it a turn if you like, just to make sure everything's turning the way it should. And I just knocked our... There we go. I was actually backing it up, which didn't help. And there's another washer that belongs on top there that you saw laying on my bench. All right, now we can put our rotor on. There wasn't anything to do up top here because it's a bushing. We cleaned up the rotor. That goes on. And our little tie down goes on. Now, that's not a straight tie down. It's got a V to it, so find the two short sides. That's how this one's going to line up. Just like that. And that comes off because I've forgotten that we have the washers that go on this. Now we can put the tie down back on. Load that so that it's inside those slots. Then get this started by hand. I'm holding the main assembly here. Get that started by hand. Reverse your ratchet so that we can tighten down. And then we want to put the E-clip or the C-clip back on this to hold that assembly in place. Difficulty getting it started here. Me and small parts tend to have that issue. There we go. Okay, so we're in on that. Now we want to grab our crosswind block. Some grease inside the slots. Remember that the pin went down, so that it rides on our crosswind block that way. Grab our axle shaft. Make sure that's nice and clean. And lay some grease on that. So this is another one that goes into my beautiful design, simple in nature, will run forever kind of a catalog, which I completely appreciate and understand. I am a fan of simplicity in design. Okay, then our badge goes back on, side plate and badge, with the EB proudly saying I was made in 1969. Grab our side plate screw. Actually, why not show you how it's operating without the side plate on? Look at that. Like it was made yesterday. Beautiful. Now we'll go button this up and we'll just go up top and check out the jag washers while we're at it. A lot of folks ask why I don't clean the cases or that. I like to clean them up, but I don't take the time on videos to do it. Most of my reels are not shelf sitters. They're out there ready to go fishing again. And we're certainly going to do that with this one. We have the anti-reverse override on this. And back pedal and forward, and then you can lock in that anti-reverse. So let's just go up top then and finish this off with the drag washers. So the drag washer is actually sitting on the spool. We have one there for underneath. We have a little kind of a spidery kind of a thing that holds it in. You just have to be careful with that. Notice that it is concave or convex. I always probably failed math with that, but the bowl side is facing down. Get some nice drag washers in here. Okay, that's so the washers have one big rubber one. You can see that you can kind of twist it like a rubber band. And we have two metals. So I noticed that the first one out was the red one. Metal washer. Big old rubber washer. Metal washer. And then this just simply presses into the groove. Just looking for the little slots. There's little slots. There we go. And that's just a retention ring. There we go. Drag knob on. Overall, pretty clean reel. Just checking for tension. There we go. We're locked down now. There you go. That is the Shakespeare 2000. It is the model EB 1969 date code. And look at that reel. Beautiful reel. Beautiful example of made in the USA 1969 engineering. This one's got a second chance and it's ready to go fishing. I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more of these, please subscribe. It's what keeps my channel going. And if you want to ask me a question about this reel or any reel in particular, maybe you've got one that you're working on and it needs, you're stuck, you need some advice on the reel, shoot me a note on that as well. And then finally, if you have a reel that needs service and you would like me to work on your reel, please contact me on the link by email on the business card that follows, and I'll be happy to provide you with the repair information. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Please stay safe, maintain social distancing, and listen to all of the folks that are trying to get us through this, because we will get through this together. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.